Hello and welcome to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the heart of Georgia. Atlanta, the site for the 2024-2025, I should say, college football playoff national championship between Notre Dame and Ohio State. Hello, everybody. Dominic Miranda here, debriefing this highly anticipated national championship game between the Buckeyes and the Irish. And man, what a game it was. Ohio State seemingly imposing their will, but Notre Dame fighting at the end. Everything you could want in a national championship game. Just enough intrigue to keep you coming back there towards the end. But Ohio State, of course, as you know by now, getting it done. 34-23 your final. It's the Buckeyes' third national title since 2000. Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, Ryan Day, national champion coaches for the Ohio State Buckeyes. The stakes coming into this game could not be overstated. Notre Dame hasn't won a national championship since 1988. Hadn't been to one since 2012. Year three prophecy for Notre Dame head coaches of years past. Frank Leahy, Ara Parseghian, Dan Devine, Lou Holtz. What do they all have in common? They all won national championships for Notre Dame in year three. Brian Kelly got to one for the Irish in 2012 in year three, and here Marcus Freeman came to Atlanta in search of his first national title at just 39 years old. He would have been the first head coach in his 30s to win a national championship since 1981. He would have been the first African-American head coach to win a national championship. He is the first African-American coach to ever coach in a national championship. So much history, so many stakes on the line for Notre Dame and Ohio State both, right? I mean, Ryan Day under the gun, especially after that Michigan loss. And all he did, run through this college football playoff and do it in pretty dominant fashion, arguably the toughest path in all the college football playoff for the Buckeyes. So how did this game go? Well, it couldn't have started better for Notre Dame. They came out, they lost the toss, they're on offense first. Notre Dame's defense is what's been carrying them. You think maybe to get settled in the game, they want to be on defense, get a first look at this Ohio State offense. Not so much. How about this? 18 plays, 75 yards, 9 minutes and 45 seconds off the clock. That first drive of the game for Notre Dame. You want to talk about a statement? You want to talk about getting settled in? 13 running plays during that drive, a lot of which came from Riley Leonard. His leg's a weapon all season long. 2 fourth-down conversions capped off by Riley Leonard punching it in near the end zone at the end of that drive. 7-0. We're over halfway through the first quarter of play. Ohio State hasn't touched the football. Could not have scripted a better start for Notre Dame in this football game. But Ohio State, got to give them credit. They punched right back. A long drive of their own. And actually, they didn't score until the second quarter. The first quarter ended in the middle of Ohio State's first drive. That's how long Notre Dame had the ball. You know, before this game, time of possession key for Notre Dame. An explosive Ohio State offense. Notre Dame wants to keep them off the field, right? Time of possession crucial in this game for Notre Dame, and again, what a start for them. But early on in that second quarter, Will Howard, and what a game he had, hits Jeremiah Smith. We're tied up early in the second quarter. But also that Notre Dame first drive, the longest drive ever as far as amount of plays and time off the clock in a national championship game ever. So again, can't say this enough. What a start for Notre Dame. But Ohio State ties it up, and Will Howard, my goodness, what a game that young man had. And Jeremiah Smith, the guy who scored the first touchdown, 19 years old, freshman sensation. You know, we were catching up with Dom Taberi of WBNS, our sister station. He said, for his money, one of, if not the best player to ever go through Ohio State. You want to talk about just the wide receivers that have gone through Ohio State. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr., Chris Carter. Oh, by the way, big praise for that young man, and he certainly deserves it. But really what you saw in that second quarter was Ohio State start to show you the $20 million roster, allegedly, that they have. Completely dominating up front. Notre Dame imposed its will up front that first drive. Ohio State said, no. Rest of that first half, it was all Buckeyes. Will Howard had seemingly all day to throw the football. They were running the ball at will. The two-headed monster of Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson in that backfield, as advertised. Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver for Ohio State, doesn't drop footballs. Jeremiah Smith, explosive for the Buckeyes. So many weapons on this Ohio State offense. But for Notre Dame, again, no push up front, no pressure on the quarterback. Will Howard had all day and half of tomorrow to throw the football. The tackling was as poor as I've ever seen from this Notre Dame defense, primarily this season. They hang their hat on their front seven. Not really existent in that first half. And the third thing, Ohio State was winning all their one-on-one matchups. I mean, just seemingly all space for these wide receivers to work. I don't know if Notre Dame went to a zone maybe. You know, they said before the game they were going to play their defense. They were going to blitz, and they're going to play man. But with these weapons for Ohio State, not a successful strategy. But again, Judkins comes in, grown man's run halfway through the second quarter, 14-7 Buckeyes, 6 to play in the half. Okay, Notre Dame settled back in. Penalties kind of stymied their drive before that score to go up. Ohio State did 14-7. But just wasn't getting settled. With that start, you thought Notre Dame was settled in this football game, but Ohio State with that response maybe stunned Notre Dame a little bit and then just couldn't get things going offensively. And another thing on this, I said Will Howard had all day to throw. Riley Leonard did too. It almost felt like Ohio State was daring Riley Leonard to beat them with his arm. That's been the big thing. His legs are his weapon. Notre Dame's running offense, their weapon. Not a lot to write home about with these wide receivers. Not a lot to write home about as far as Riley Leonard throwing the ball downfield. Now, he escaped the pocket, evaded sacks a lot of times, and made things happen primarily in the second half, and we'll get there. But he was missing some open receivers in that first half that killed a lot of drives that maybe would have settled Notre Dame back down. So Ohio State up 14-7, and right before the half, 30 seconds to go, Ohio State drives down the field, and Will Howard hits Quinshon Judkins this time through the air. It's 21-7. So 21 unanswered points for Ohio State to end the first half of football. Now get this also. I said Will Howard was playing lights out. Not to mention this entire postseason, he has played like a first-round NFL quarterback. I'll say that. I don't know. Wasn't familiar with Will Howard's game, I suppose, especially with that regular season the way it went. But man, this offensive onslaught for Ohio State, it was as advertised. Will Howard set a record for most consecutive completions in the college football playoff national championship game. He started the game 13 for 13. Extremely efficient out of Will Howard. All right, so 21-7 at the halftime break. Ohio State, what do they do out of the half? A 70-yard run by Judkins. There's that man again. I think I said it in the highlights you're going to see on WTHR. Mama, there goes that man. And then he punches it in a couple plays later. So 28-7. And then a field goal after Notre Dame, inexplicably, in their own territory, 4th and 2, fakes a punt. You have to go for it in that situation if you're Marcus Freeman, I think. But if you're going to, line up and play football. Run an offensive play. That fake punt was a head-scratcher and gave Ohio State very favorable field position. Now, to Notre Dame's credit, they held them to a field goal. So it's 31-7. Okay, so it was 7-0. Best drive you could have asked for Notre Dame. And here we are, 12:46 to go in the third quarter. It's 31-7 midway through the third quarter. Game's over, right? Think again. Here comes the Irish. No pun intended. 3 to go in the third quarter. Riley Leonard, finally, we're getting Jaden Greathouse involved. Stellar sophomore receiver for the Irish. 34 yards, spin move. He does the rest. Okay, some life. Little Travis Kelce shovel for the 2-point try. 31-15. All right, two-score game. Here in the third quarter. We go to the fourth. Notre Dame forces a fumble after Ohio State's driving. They go down. This was another crucial play in this game with 9:30 to go in the fourth quarter. 4th and goal from the 6-yard line for Notre Dame. They opt to kick a field goal, down 16 points. So you're trying to go from a 2-score game to a 2-score game. A short field goal, missed, doinked by Mitch Jeter, who's been nails this postseason. That was unfortunate to see, but you wasted all that time. I'm not saying you're going to get it on 4th and goal, but a 2-score game in the national championship, it's a questionable decision. So really that fake punt that gave Ohio State a free 3 points, and that play, not going for it on 4th and missing a field goal, seems like a 6, 7, 10-point swing there for Notre Dame, potentially. Not saying they would have scored, but give Notre Dame credit. They get the ball back. They get a stop. 4 to play in the fourth quarter. Riley Leonard to who else? Jaden Greathouse puts it up. He makes a contested catch. They get the 2-point try. Jordan Faison, little trickery. He throws it into the end zone. Okay, so it's an 8-point game. Despite Notre Dame being outplayed this entire game, it's an 8-point game with 4 minutes to play. Notre Dame gets one chance to get a stop. It's 3rd and 11. Just under 3 minutes to play. But Ohio State, they had one more play in them. Will Howard to Jeremiah Smith, the 19-year-old sensation from Miami Gardens, Florida. My goodness, 56 yards. Notre Dame brought the house. Christian Gray got beat over top. One-on-one matchup. You're not going to win it with Jeremiah Smith a lot of times, and that was all she wrote. The Buckeyes tacked on a field goal, and that brought us to our final score of 34-23. So obviously it wasn't a good showing for Notre Dame. That much is true. I don't want to go, before I tell you why you got to take it easy on the Irish, you got to understand this defense was poor this entire game. And look, Ohio State is a phenomenal team. They're a phenomenal team. They showed it, right? They win their first round matchup, okay? They go to Oregon, or they crush Tennessee to start the playoff. Nobody saw that coming. The chatter about the SEC got real quiet after that. Previously unbeaten and top-ranked Oregon, who beat the Buckeyes in the regular season, beat by 20. They go and manhandle Texas, and then they flex their muscle tonight against Notre Dame. It's a supremely impressive team, and it's a supremely impressive coaching job from Ryan Day after calls for his job were incessant after losing to Michigan to end the season. But I got to tell you, the fight Notre Dame showed down the stretch was supremely impressive. They could have mailed it in. It's a national championship game. You expect them not to, but 31-7, third quarter, not thinking that's going to become a game at all. And you have a chance, 3rd and 11, 2.5 to go, 8-point ball game. Says a lot about this team who's battled injury after injury after injury, and that really reared its ugly head. You know, a guy like Riley Mills, who was out after the Indiana game, would have made a huge difference tonight. Benjamin Morrison, one of the best cornerbacks in the country, injured in the Stanford game, would have made a huge difference tonight. Now, you haven't heard much about the injuries, primarily before this week leading up. National media started to really hammer it home, but because the level of play didn't drop off from this Notre Dame team. The run through this postseason, this result tonight, and it was only an 11-point loss to the Ohio State Buckeyes, this result is not a referendum on what Notre Dame did this season, and primarily their run through the postseason. They stomped Indiana. You know, they manhandled Georgia. They had a clutch, resilient response against Penn State after similarly getting dominated up front and in the trenches in the first half. It's not a referendum on their season. It's a disappointing end to what was a magical run for this Notre Dame team. Before the game, I was thinking this. 3 keys to victory for Notre Dame. Control time of possession and have more rushing yards than Ohio State. That would tell me you're winning the battle up front, you're controlling the game, and you're playing to your strengths, running the football. Ohio State had 214 rushing yards. Notre Dame had 53. At one point during this game, in the third quarter, Ohio State had 305 total yards of offense. Notre Dame had 105, 75 of which coming from that first drive. For the majority of this game, Notre Dame was dominated, just plain and simple. Will Howard was unbelievable. I believe he was 17-21, and like I told you, he was 13-13. But that first key, control time possession, win the rushing battle, they did not do that. Second key to the game, eliminate explosive plays. That's what this Ohio State offense does. Explosive plays, chunk plays. Notre Dame did not do that. I put it at 35-plus yards. That's a pretty high bar. Jeremiah Smith had 2 of those by himself. Quinshon Judkins had 2 of those by himself. They weren't getting Ohio State out of their game. That much is true. Ohio State was 9 of 12 on third downs in this game. That's not going to get it done. That's just simply not going to get it done if you're Notre Dame. You have to get off the field on third down, and you have to convert them similarly on offense, and Notre Dame did none of those things. And the third thing was win the turnover battle. Notre Dame did do that. They did not turn the ball over, and they forced a huge fumble in that game that led to that attempted field goal on 4th and goal from the 6-yard line. For my money, I would have probably gone for it, but then Mitch Jeter doinks it and makes it look like an even worse decision, and there you go. You're trusting your defense to get 2 stops on this Ohio State offense that's been torching you all night long. Look, bottom line is this. Notre Dame ends the season 14-2. It was a dream run. It was so much fun covering this team from Indiana, an insane home atmosphere for Notre Dame. Just think about the run. Anyone who has anything to say about this 12-team playoff, you just miss me with it, because this 12-team playoff has been a raging success. The home first-round playoff games, off-the-charts success. That environment at Notre Dame Stadium, I will never forget. They beat Indiana. They go to New Orleans. They have to deal with some adversity, right? They beat and out-physical Georgia. When's the last time you can say that? They beat the SEC champs. We talked to Howard Cross after the game, Notre Dame defensive lineman. He said, look, this team is trending in the right direction. This program's trending in the right direction. It was unfathomable that Notre Dame would win a big game before this season, and we won 2 bowl games in the span of the week, the latest coming in Miami against Penn State in the Orange Bowl, a game I will never forget. The atmospheres at each stop we've been to have been sensational, not least of which this one in Atlanta. Atlanta was a perfect host city. The Midwest weather followed us. It's 20 degrees. I think a door is open right now that's blowing cold air in my face. Just makes me feel right at home. But the atmosphere here, the Ohio State fans were phenomenal. The Notre Dame fans were phenomenal. It was the pinnacle of the sport. It's what it's supposed to look like. It was fantastic. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a spaceship, absolutely fantastic venue for this type of event. But look, like I said before, this isn't a referendum on Notre Dame's season. It's disappointing. It's 100% disappointing because they didn't play their best game. A lot of that had to do with their opponent, but they didn't play their best game. And it looked like the injuries finally caught up to them. That's not an excuse because Ohio State dominated them in virtually every category of this game. But you thought those injuries would rear its ugly head, and it felt like they really felt it here in this national championship game. So Notre Dame is still without a title since 1988. They still haven't beaten Ohio State since 1936, okay? So that's really interesting, and this is now the third consecutive year that they've lost to Ohio State. So if you don't think Marcus Freeman will have this game playing on loop in the athletic facility at Notre Dame, you have another thing coming, because I can tell you one thing, he absolutely will. Loses to his alma mater in the national championship, but what a season it was for Notre Dame. And again, I can't tell you, just the weekend here in Atlanta, the buzz in the air downtown, every day we came, talking to Notre Dame fans, just how hungry they were to win a national championship for the first time in 36, 37 years, no matter how you slice it, 24, 25, 2024, 2025. 36 or 37 years without a national championship. This fan base is hungry, okay? And they got here. It was a magical run, and they just couldn't finish the job. But what a season it was, how much fun we had covering it, bringing you all the highlights, and really all the feelings of the host cities of New Orleans, and then Miami, and then Atlanta. It was just really neat to have that opportunity and have that experience. And really, every stop we talked to more fans and more fans and more fans. A lot of them from Indianapolis. A lot of them from South Bend. One guy from Kokomo, James Verboski. If you're watching this, you were electric, sir. You were absolutely electric. But it was a lot of fun, and we're so happy to have brought you this run from Notre Dame. And rest assured, they will be back in this situation. Marcus Freeman is a stand-up guy. He got this program back. Just think of it. Losing week 2 to Northern Illinois, to rattling off 13 straight wins. Another thing about the 12-team playoff, neither of these teams would have made a 4-team playoff. Think about that. Ohio State's loss to Michigan was their second loss of the year, an unranked Michigan team. That would have knocked them out. And I can tell you one thing, Notre Dame's loss to Northern Illinois in week 2 would have absolutely knocked them out of the playoffs. So the 12-team playoff, a raging success. Ohio State beats Notre Dame 34-23 in the 2025 national championship game. It's a tough one. It's going to sting for a while for Notre Dame, but what a season it was. And congratulations to Ryan Day notching his first title as Ohio State's head coach. What a rich tradition and history the Buckeyes football program has. I think that's going to do it for us. It was fun. A disappointing end, but it was fun. For all of us here at WTHR, we'll have much more coverage on air and right here on WTHR Plus, covering this game and covering so many more things that Indianapolis has to offer you. We are privileged to be able to do this. I'm Dominic Miranda here in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Ohio State 34, Notre Dame 23 in the national championship game of college football. That wraps it up for us. We'll see you next time.